Hey friends, listen, for my dancers and my dance educators, I had to pop on today and tell you something that I'm seeing a lot with my dancers recently, and it is a sway back. We used to call it a sway back when I was dancing, but it's just where the back is arched deeply and we have an anterior pelvic tilt. This causes a lot of problems and puts our dancers at risk, and here's why. When my pelvis is tipped forward at that degree, I have super tight hip flexors and super loose glutes. Who wants loose glutes, right? Also, my core cannot be engaged very well here. So I want to tuck under that pelvis to bring it to a neutral position. Now, we don't want to exaggerate that in the other way either, right? We don't want to tuck under so much that we have a posterior tilt in the pelvis. So I like to cue my dancers as driving their tailbone straight down into the floor and lifting up through the center of their ribs into their sternum. So it's bringing it more into a neutral position as opposed to anterior tilt or posterior tilt, right? This way I can activate my glutes, my core, and I can use my hip flexors in a healthy way, because tight hip flexors do not mean strong hip flexors. Now, here are the places that I'm seeing it with my dancers. I'm seeing it in their bridges, where they're not able to lift the hips up to the ceiling because they've got such a curve in the spine, and so I'm not being able to lengthen through the hip flexors as well. They're also pushing their ribs towards the ceiling as opposed to pushing their hip bones towards the ceiling. So then they're not activating the glutes as well. The other place that I'm seeing it is in push-ups, where the back is arched so much that the belly is not activated, and the belly is going to come down towards the floor first. And I want to adjust that so that my chest and my shoulders are going towards the floor first and not my center. The other place that I'm seeing it is in overhead shoulder presses. When the dancers are pushing up over the head with the dumbbells, especially with load, they're allowing the rib cage to open up, which causes that curvature in the spine and the anterior pelvic tilt that we want to avoid. So here are some things we can do to counterbalance that. One is just being aware of that pelvis, driving the tailbone down into the floor and lifting up through the sternum. We can do whale tails. This is one of my favorite exercises. It lengthens through the hip flexors while also activating the glutes and the hamstrings really, really deeply. We can also use the low lunge stretch, beginning at a 90-degree position, tipping that pelvis down and under, and then leaning into that low lunge position to lengthen through those hip flexors. That's going to give them a nice long stretch. Remember that that anterior tilt in the pelvis for our dancers puts them at higher risk of back, hip, and knee injuries, and those are among the top injuries that dancers experience. Let me know if you try any of these exercises to counterbalance that anterior pelvic tilt, and let me know if you have any questions about it. Happy dancing!